Okay, so today we're going to be talking about SNAP benefits. The question today is, when SNAP recipients must go to work in order to get benefits, will the government provide childcare? Otherwise, what will people who are so poor that they need subsistence help do with their children while they're at work? Has anyone thought this through?
Um, I feel like this person asking this question is already, could have done a very simple Google search and found out that yes, has been all the way thought through. That is a part that's been,
That the majority of people on SNAP actually do work.
Yeah, but I do feel like this person was looking just to ruffle some feathers.
Usually that is the case. So let's read what Jess, mother of four here, has to say. She says they did think of this, and that's why the bill was changed to make an exception for parents with kids under 14. Don't get me wrong, I hate that effing big, beautiful bill, and I think it's going to do a lot of long-term harm in our country. But let's hate it for what it says, not for what it doesn't say. SNAP recipients without kids or with kids 14 and older need to go to work or go to school or volunteer in order to receive benefits. But parents of kids under 14 can continue to receive benefits with no work requirement. Interesting. Now, I didn't know that that was the case.
Is that the case? That is, in fact, the case. And I think we should maybe do a little research before we say so. That just does not seem...
Now, I do know that there are work requirements for it, and there is some stipulation about, obviously, if you have like a tiny baby, like a newborn baby, but I don't know if 14 is the cutoff. And honestly, I think that the program works differently state to state. So it could be one state it's 14 and in another it's totally different. But
and I don't know. I take a little bit of issue with the idea that a 14-year-old should have to work. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, you can't even legally work at 14.
Yeah, it's like you're hard pressed to find places to work, but
I think they're not saying that the 14-year-old has to work. I think they're saying that the parent, if their kids are 14, like the kid's old enough to be at home, you should be at work or doing something, volunteering of some kind. I like Gwendolyn's answer here. She says, what about the elderly or the disabled? They're also on SNAP. What about the adults that do work but aren't paid a living wage? $7 an hour for a 40-hour week likely doesn't even cover rent, transportation expenses, or healthcare. It's pretty tough to pull yourself up by the bootstraps if you can't even afford to buy any boots.
Yeah, that's a great point that she makes there, because you think like what the world costs now.
Yeah.
I mean, $7 an hour. I mean, can you even survive on $7 an hour? And I don't mean paying your bills, but can you live?
I don't even know if you can afford food
to eat.
Literally, if food was your only expense, I still don't think that $7 an hour at 40 hours a week is enough money to even afford to feed yourself sufficiently.
So essentially, that's a slave. A $7 an hour person is a slave.
Yeah, that's true.
I know it sounds harsh, but I mean, let's look at the reality. This is a person that has to work for you to be able to eat. They will never be able to
we have to eat to stay alive.
Yeah.
You have to work to earn the money to buy the food to eat to stay alive.
Yeah.
But you can afford nothing else. That is slavery.
And what are the disabled supposed to do, or the elderly? Like think of people who are disabled, who are born with degenerative diseases where they're paralyzed or whatever, where they cannot work. And then you're going to say, hey, well, you can't get benefits. What's the point of a society if we're not going to take care of...
Are we talking essentially euthanasia for people who we deem unfit for society? If you can't work a 40-hour week, or if you can't work a job that provides and gives you enough stability and sustenance, well, you should just not be alive then.
That sounds like that is so disgusting. That sounds like...
so much for pro-life, right?
Well, right, but doesn't that just sound evil? Like think of the elderly, the people who've already put in their time, right? They already worked 40 hours a week for 50 years.
They've already contributed.
And then now they can't afford to live on their meager Social Security.
Right, or disability benefit.
So then they're trying to get SNAP benefits, and then they're told, hey, you got to go to work. What the hell are you going to work when you're 80? Sorry. What's the next one?
Absolutely. So Jess responds to Gwendolyn saying, Agreed. I believe that there's medical exception for the disabled, but there isn't any exception for the elderly that I know of. And the whole thing is honestly disgusting. The amount of suffering the bill is going to cause when it goes into effect in a year is incalculable. Well, we just dated this post was from a year ago. Denise says, my brother takes care of 2 profoundly autistic sons. The eldest will be 18 this year, and he can't leave them alone to go to work. I hope the big stupid bill does not mess with my family. And it's absolutely going to be messing with your family.
We have to think of just how many people have that exact same situation.
Right,
you have where we're supposed to, I mean, these autistic people, as they grow up, they need a lot of care. And sometimes these care facilities, there's no way to afford them. So your only choice is to stay and take care of your kids. And this is why we pay taxes, right? This is what us coming together.
This is what we want our taxes to be taking care of, and to be paying for, to take care of our people.
To take care of an autistic family or a family with disabled people or something, or the elderly. I just can't get over the fact that we aren't taking care of our elderly. They took care of us. Right. Like they were doing the work.
I mean,
well, sure. But think of it in a few generations, we're going to be those elderly, right? And sure. I would like it if the society didn't just push us out into
the
die.
Cold street. Yeah, exactly.
Like I would like it if we get taken care of.
The irony here too is that the same people who are saying you need to go to work to earn these benefits, you need to earn it, you need blah blah blah, are also the same people who will look down their nose at the idea of hiring somebody with a disability. Right. Look down their nose at the idea of hiring somebody who maybe had like a Down syndrome or some other disability that made it harder or took longer to train them, or they wouldn't work as quickly or be as productive. These companies don't want to hire people like this, yet then they're penalized for their mere existence. The fact that they're even alive is penalized because, well, nobody wants to hire you, but we also don't want to feed you either. Oh, and we don't want to provide housing. And when you are living on the street, we want to make it as uncomfortable for you as possible.
Sure.
So the whole point is cruelty. It's just cruelty wrapped up in layers of freaking cruelty here. And it's true. I mean, yeah. So getting back to the point of the post, Tiffany says many people who get SNAP benefits do work, but income isn't enough for bills, medicine, and food. I'm afraid that they're going to tell people on disability that they will have to work based on age. Most in disability are unable to do any kind of work. What about those people? My son is 28 and on disability for CF. What's that?
I'm not sure.
Anyways, and gets SNAP. He only gets $1,000 a month for disability benefits and he's unable to work. But will the government look at his age and not his disability to try and say that he can work when he actually can't? Because they would say, oh, you're 28 years old. You're able-bodied. You should be out there working. It's like, well, if you have
it's cystic fibrosis.
Yeah. Obviously, this man cannot work.
I mean,
somebody who has spina bifida or, things like that. Like, there's just maybe some jobs that they can do, but typically those will require higher education to get into. And then again, we get into the hassle of we don't want to pay to educate anyone either. Our country does not want to take care of its people. We don't want to feed you. We don't want to house you. We don't want to take care of your medical care. We don't want to educate you. We simply want you born so that we can feed you into our warehouses, our factories, and our war machines and the military so that we can use your labor in your body. And when you're no longer of use to us, then you should just cease to exist in the world. It's really sad and disgusting.
Okay, we got anybody opposed here?
Oh, well, William here thinks that the thing is that a lot of people receiving welfare don't stop to think about the fact that they can't afford children, but go ahead and pump them out anyways, knowing that that will mean additional money for each child. So apparently, William here is a pro-choice. I would assume by this comment that he wanted people to have the choice whether or not they had babies or not, because we're supposed to know whether or not that child's going to be born disabled prior to being born. We're supposed to know before having any of our children whether or not we will suffer an accident or a disability in the future. He fails to realize that disability isn't always something that we know about prior to having children. In fact, some women become disabled within the process of birthing children into the world. So this whole close your legs and don't have babies if you can't afford to feed them is actually quite ignorant. I don't agree with William at all. Yeah, I like how this commenter responds to him saying, so what are girls and women supposed to do? They have to work to support themselves, but the your body, my choice is now the law of the land, apparently.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. So this first commenter is essentially saying, hey, if you don't want to have to be on welfare, keep your legs closed, or don't just be pumping out.
Yeah, if you know you don't have money for people don't have money for birth control either, and
and I highly doubt that there are very many, and it's possible because there's a bunch of flavors of humanity out there, but there could be people who do think of it like that. But it's one of those catch-all things. If 1 out of 1 million people out there is taking advantage of the system in that way and just being like, I'll just make my living off of my babies, like I'm like, okay, I don't care if we have to. Even though it's malicious or whatever, I'm like, okay, that one person who's negatively using the system is fine as long as it's helping out the millions that are necessarily needed.
Right. There's a stark contrast between the group of people who say, I would rather feed 100 people and have one undeserving person get fed than to starve out 100 people because, oh, I'm scared that one person that doesn't deserve it might get it. You know, it's like they'd rather starve 100 to make sure that one undeserving didn't get it. So Brian here says, thanks, Jess. It seems to me that the economy and our country would be better off if it just made arrangements for childcare and required everyone who is able to work if they wish to receive SNAP benefits. Again, I don't agree with that. And Catherine, your response to him saying, average SNAP benefits is $192 per person per month. Daycare is $1,000 per child per month, at least. Cheaper to just give people food. Just true. If you think about it, if you were actually thinking about fiscal responsibility and actual care of the people, what was the most financially beneficial and also like cheapest option is just to house and feed people. We actually spend more money in this country, like persecuting the unhoused, than it would cost to just house them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like with the what do they call it? The harsh architecture or whatever, and the laws and all this, like we do a lot, and police enforcement and all this stuff to like essentially criminalize and punish you for being unhoused, as if being unhoused isn't enough of a punishment anyways. It costs less money to house and feed people.
Yeah. This person's talking about SNAP benefits are about $200 a month.
Per person.
Per person, right?
That's not even enough. It's supplemental.
You think, can you eat off of $200 a month? Like you yourself, could you pack yourself lunch every day, 30 days, make a dinner for $200 in a month? No fucking way. Like it's still not even enough. And this is what we're complaining that people are like abusing. Okay, $200.
And again, there's a whole lot of like victim blamey type of comments in here that are blaming women for having children that they can't afford, failing to recognize that it takes two people to create a child. And oftentimes one of those parties is not participating in the care of the child. And the mothers are oftentimes left to reach out for benefits and help and support because they are carrying the sole burden of raising and supporting this child. Like this, help me understand this. Why do young women keep having children with boyfriends and then they end up single moms with no fathers? You do realize that married people become single parents as well. Sure. I was legally married to my child's father when he was conceived, when he was born, when all this stuff. And I still ended up a single parent because his father chose to just abandon him and desert. So it's not always the fault of the woman. I
think there's a lot to unpack here, though.
There's also a lot of like blaming the parent that actually takes responsibility. And that's really disturbing to me.
This is, okay. I think it's really important when we read these comments to understand what this person is saying, right? They say, help me understand why do young women keep having children with boyfriends and then end up single moms and not fathers. Okay, so this person is probably pointing towards, okay, if they were married, like you were getting to, if they're married, maybe this wouldn't happen. And that's not necessarily true.
That's not true at all.
But the person does bring up an interesting point. Like, why do we have young women who are ending up as single fathers or single mothers, excuse me?
Yeah.
Well, why is that? And instead of us saying, hey, they shouldn't get any assistance, maybe we should find out why. Is this is this lack of education? Is this lack of like information? Is this and on both parties? Why are these boys not sticking around? Why
do we not hold these dads accountable
Sure.
for the children? Everybody
Absolutely.
looks at these moms and goes, oh, it's her fault. She's responsible. Don't give her any help. But did you know that statistically speaking, the majority of teenage mothers are impregnated by men in between the ages of 19 and 27?
Sure.
That's the window. So these are full-grown men who are impregnating 15-year-old girls, yet the girl is looked at as the problem,
right,
as opposed to a predatory man who took advantage of a teenage girl, impregnated her, and then skipped out on his responsibilities, the baby and her, leaving her in a situation where now she has no education, no hope to go to college, no hope to advance her life and her future. And now she's stuck in a cycle of poverty and debt unless she can miracle her way out of it. But this man gets to walk off scot-free, and we're blaming the teenage moms as opposed to the full-grown men who are impregnating teenage girls.
Okay.
Let's put the blame where it belongs, and it's all over the place, not just with the mothers that stick around. I also take a big issue with the fact that we demonize the parent that sticks around to take care of the child as opposed to demonizing the parent that abandons them. Single mom's the problem, not the deadbeat dad. Very weird.
Let's see. Andrew,
you want to read
says,
Andrew's comment?
Sadly, this doesn't stop single women from getting pregnant prior to one child aging out. If a single mom, per your response to the question, has a child under the age of 14 to have kids, she will never be without children under 14 years. She's still a lifelong member of the mooching community on welfare. There should be a number of children that exemption goes to, or else there should be women with 10 kids, all a few years apart in age, so she will never have to work and abuse the system. Look,
this guy thinks you're living off of food stamps. It's less than $200 a person, and he literally thinks that a woman is going to have baby after baby after baby just so that she can keep getting fed for free. This man really, really vastly underestimates the actual cost of raising a child. The cost of even just supporting one pregnancy is like 10 times what you're going to get in benefits. Like, this is such a ridiculous welfare queen freaking mentality. This guy thinks that people are actually out there having babies so that they can get $200 a month in food and not have to pay for anything else, excusing the fact or ignoring the fact that we have housing, health insurance, clothing, transportation, every other expense. I'm sorry, $192 a month is not going to be enough to motivate somebody to have another baby. Let's look at this. When they tried to put out that, what was it, the baby bonus or whatever, the birth rate's declining. We're gonna give people a $5,000 bonus for having a baby in this economy, and people are like, literally in this economy?
$5,000 doesn't even cover giving birth to
it won't even cover your maternity clothes and your maternity care, let alone the first year of expenses for a child. Andrew has no clue what it actually costs to raise a baby or a child in any sense of the word.
And again, here's another good point to bring up. He brings up
she's a mooching community.
The mooching community. He brings that up. If you look at the percentage of the money that America pays into the SNAP benefits, I remember seeing it's like 0.014%. Like, it's so low. The amount of our money that goes into funding SNAP, and this is the thing that we're like, oh, you're mooching. There's plenty of other things where our country is.
I would say our bloated military
exhausting
is mooching.
Money like crazy.
I think the fact that our Senate and Congress people can close down the government and be out of work for a month and still get paid, that's mooching. That is some real world mooching. A person who is just trying to survive and not starve to death is not a moocher. So Carla says, well, I disagree with parents that have children that are low income, 14 and under. If they can work their state childcare, the majority of it for somebody. This lady is
it's
word
fraught
salad.
with
This lady's word salad. I'm going to skip her because I can't even read what she's saying. Mills says the whole problem is that the free stuff isn't sustainable. Our working and paying taxpayers are already overburdened, but for some reason the liberals want to torch taxpayers because they are tired of supporting people who choose to screw up their lives by having kids that they can't afford or getting themselves effed up with drugs or a loser partner, which is, again, the anti-choice community sure likes to demonize people for the choices that they make when they are given absolutely no choice.
So wait, now I think there's more to this.
The other thing is it stimulates the economy. We think of this as like some tax burden. Did you know that every dollar that they pay out in SNAP benefits actually equals like $2.50 into the actual economy? It generates revenue in there. Like, I'd like to know, how does IFA, Walmart, Piggly Wiggly, Smiths, and all these other grocers, how do these people, these big billionaires that own these grocery chains, feel about him cutting off benefits? They are the recipients of that money. They benefit from SNAP being out in the community. The fact that people have access to money to pay for food, they're going to go to Walmart and Smiths and wherever else, all these grocery stores, and they are going to use that money to buy their groceries. So the Walton family and all these other big, huge billionaire families that run these corporate grocery stores, why aren't they fighting back against us? They're losing out.
Absolutely. But
this is just another example of like shooting themselves in the face. They vote against their own best interest.
This is that the liberals want to torch taxpayers because they are tired of supporting people who've screwed up their lives by having their kids, having kids that they can't afford. Now that line, kids they can't afford. Most people on SNAP who have children have a nuclear family, or not nuclear family, but 2.3 kids or 2.5 kids, you know what I mean? And they can't afford this. Why can't they afford this?
Yeah.
Now, Miles, I believe his name is, brings up a good point. They can't afford this, but why not?
But then he assumes that it's because of drugs.
Is it always because they picked the wrong partner? Is it always because they're drugs? Or is it just that the freaking world costs so freaking much now?
And the funny thing is, I assume nobody who has children's ever gotten fired or terminated or downsized from their jobs before, right? You're supposed to know before you have children for the rest of your life exactly what job you're going to have, and nothing's ever going to get hit. You're never going to have a financial hiccup. That's basically what you're saying to people. You cannot have children unless you know for the rest of your life that you are always going to be financially stable. You're never going to lose your job. You're never going to get into a car accident. You're never going to become disabled. You're never going to get cancer or get sick. You don't realize that there are a lot of reasons why people cannot work that they didn't know was going to happen to them when they had their children. Maybe they had their children when they were in a stable, loving marriage, and then their partner got cancer and died. Yet those people, now your children deserve to starve to death because their father died of a incurable illness or got injured on the job or whatever. Look at the mothers of, we'll play devil's advocate. We'll play on the side of their right and say, let's say it's a police officer dies in the line of duty and his wife is left behind and they had 4 children, but they had a stable income and a stable life together. But now that he's gone, his children deserve to die? Yeah, his wife deserves to starve to death? They don't need a safety net. The other thing is, too, people don't seem to realize is that SNAP or WIC benefits and SNAP benefits, typically people are only on them for like a period of like maybe 2 years of their lifetime. Like they're only eligible for it for a continuous 2 years. They try to pull this whole, they're going to have a baby. Once that baby turns 13 and they're about to age out, they're going to go out and have yet another baby just so that they have another baby under the age of 14 so they can keep getting money, ignoring the fact that that's just ridiculous and people don't have babies so that they can get benefits. And secondly, it costs more to have the baby than you would get in benefits. It's just, the whole thing is just ludicrous. We don't all know exactly how our life is going to play out. We don't know what's going to happen to us our entire life. That's a whole, like, we are humans. Like, so many people here forget that we are humans and forgetting our humanity here. And what's the alternative? What's the alternative? You know, can't afford to feed my kids. I guess we all just, you know, drive ourselves off of a bridge or something because we don't deserve to live anymore. Like, there's going to be this epidemic of people, you know, disappearing themselves.
Everything is just getting more expensive all the time. This is only going to be a thing that's needed more and more every day.
Yeah, there's just a lot of people here who have this idiotic idea that people are having babies and then staying on government welfare for 14 years straight. It does not happen. It does not happen. You don't qualify. You will get pushed off of benefits within 2 years if you have not done anything. There are things you have to do. There are educational requirements. There are job search requirements. There are volunteering requirements. There's a lot of things. And it is a temporary crutch. It is a temporary something to keep you from completely falling apart when the rest of your life is falling apart.
And don't we all want that? I would love to
I want that for me. I want that for you.
Yeah, I would love to know that if I got injured at work or I got sick or, you know, just any number of things happen that my society would, you know, help me out. So, of course, I want that for everybody else. And why not? It's working in red states, 10 years old, expected to switch. I don't think this person knows what they're talking about. But actually, this is a great picture. One of the pictures
example here is the little boys from the coal mines way back in the day, and he says, "Why bother educating them? The future MAGA voters will just get uppity and believe in commie things like democracy, freedom, and not existing solely to work themselves to death, making rich people richer. You know, the same reasons that they made it illegal to educate slaves. Get them out in the fields as young as possible. That's the American dream we want for our children, right? This is the future that we want for our kids and grandkids and great grandkids. I'm going to give my kids everything I never had." Has become, I'm going to make sure that my kids never had what I had or even my grandparents had. Screw them. It's like there's this sickness of like boomers that like they've got this idea like they had everything. Everything was handed to them. They were born into a rich society that wanted them to do well and wanted them to be cared for. They took everything that they could out of it and then set that for everybody else and ruined it for everyone else.
Yeah. The idea that we would have children working, I mean, like...
Yeah, let's put those 10-year-olds back to work in the coal mines again. Let's get them out there picking cotton.
If we're going to start thinking like that, then why even have a society at all? Why not we all just go back to, you know, farm, you know, your own family farm, and you just set your laws the way you want for your family, and you know what I mean? Like,
it's true. I agree with you. I feel like attitudes like this about not taking care of our own really just devolves us in our society. We may as well just go back to living in caves and ooga boogieing each other, because that is not what society is. Society should be, we all come together to live together for the benefit of each other mutually.
So the beginning of society is like the farming culture, right? You think you got a bunch of farms get together and now they have a surplus of food, and the farms are fairly close together, and this farm has this food, this farm that has that other fruit or vegetable or whatever, and they trade with each other. But then, hey, when this farm is low because the onions didn't come in, you would supply each other, right? And that's the beginning of society. You'd have this surplus of food, so you'd take care of the people who didn't have the food, and then when the other crop came in, they took care of you. Because, and if we're not going to have
that's the whole point of a community.
If we're not going to have a community that takes care of each other, well, then we might as well all just be like locking into our own homes and with our pews and defending what's our, you know what I mean? We'll just be a bunch of barbarians.
We have to remember we're all human. We're all going to go through things. We're all going to experience times of need. We're all going to experience, the majority of us are going to experience times of need. We're all going to go through that, where we need to lean on either each other, society, and everybody else. And we need to stop looking down our nose at everybody and remember that we are all one paycheck away from being exactly like these people that you're looking down your nose at.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good
yeah.
spot to leave it. So I would say,
Yeah, check back in with us on the next one.
Remember to comment, like, and subscribe if you ever want to see me again. And as always, have the day you deserve and the rights you voted for all of us to have.